It's a great day, class. Welcome back. This is the part 2 of your chapter 2 in our subject income taxation. Okay. Again, I am Attorney Mark Anthony Bagwal, your professor in income taxation. So, in chapter 1, we have studied the definition of income, gross income and tax, or net income tax. Okay. And also the inclusions and exclusions na dapat i-declare, ilagay sa computation ng yung gross income and net income. So right now, we'll study a special topic on income tax, which is the fringe benefits. Ano ba yung special rules on fringe benefits? Okay? So, listen and study well. God bless.
So what are fringe benefits ba? Fringe benefits refer to benefits, goods, services, or other benefits furnished or granted by an employer in cash or in kind. And number 3, in addition to basic salaries to its employees, either managerial, supervisory, or rank and file employees. So, yun yung fringe benefit ha. Fringe benefit are granted as an incentive to encourage employees' productivity and loyalty to employer. 'Di ba? Kaya nag-i-stay yung mga employees sa isang kumpanya because of these benefits that they are receiving. However, some of these are also subject to a special kind of tax, which is the fringe benefit tax. So, but before that, let's study ano ba yung mga types of employees sa labor code nyo. Okay? We have managerial, supervisory, and rank and file employees. So managerial employees are those who are given the powers, number 1, to lay down and execute management policies, and number 2, to hire, transfer, suspend, lay off, recall, discharge, assign, or discipline employees. How about yung mga supervisory employees? Those who effectively recommend such managerial actions, those in number 1.1 and 1.2, and the exercise of such authority is not merely routinary or clerical in nature but requires the use of independent judgment. Okay? So, hindi sila yung routinary yung ginagawa. They usually perform and recommend yung mga managerial actions na yan. And finally, the rank and file employees. Those who are holding neither managerial nor supervisory position. So, mga clerkship, yung mga routinary yung work, usually those are the rank and file employees. Okay? Now, what is a fringe benefits tax? So, nandun yun sa BIR form number 160. But we already know what is a fringe benefit, diba? So, fringe benefit tax is a final withholding tax imposed on the gross up monetary value or yung value nung benefit of fringe benefit which are granted or paid by an employer to an employee occupying a managerial or supervisory position. So, ang fringe benefit tax, ito yung nag-a-apply lang siya sa mga fringe benefit na ginagrant ng employer sa mga employee niya na managers and supervisors. Okay. Diba? So, the fringe benefit tax rate was increased from 32% to 35% now. Diba? And the filing and payment was moved to the last day of the month after the close of the calendar quarter. A fringe benefit tax is a tax on the income of the employee, which is paid by an employer on behalf of the employee. So, ito tax yan ng employee, not by the employer. Okay? So, supervisor or manager can claim the fringe benefit and the fringe benefit tax as deductible expense from his gross income. So, since tinatak siya sa final withholding tax to no? So, tinak siya ng employer. So, pwede niya yung i-claim as deductible expense sa kanyang gross income. So, the fringe benefit tax is a measure to ensure that an income tax is paid on fringe benefits. If they were given in cash, an income is automatically withheld and collected by the government. Okay? So question, why is the fringe benefit tax collected from the employer? Can you guess? So can you guess? Fringe benefit tax is collected from the employer because the valuation of benefits is easier at the level of the employer. And the collection of the fringe benefit tax is ensured because the fringe benefit tax is withheld at source and does not depend on the self-declaration of the individual. Okay, so automatic na employer yung magdededuct sa'yo. And that will fall under what principle of sound tax system? That will fall under the um, administrative feasibility. Yung inaral natin sa chapter 1, okay? Now, we have different items of fringe benefit tax to discuss. First is the housing. Some employers are giving housing privileges to their employees, rank and file, and supervisor. So, these are subject to fringe benefit tax. How about expense account? So expense account, the rule is the fixed and variable transportation, representation, and other allowances are subject to fringe benefit tax. Yung mga transportation allowance ng mga boss nyo, ng mga supervisors and managers, they are subject to fringe benefit tax. Except if incurred or reasonably expected to be incurred by employee in the performance of his duties. Okay? Meron pa, mga vehicle of any kind na pinoprovide ng employers. So, these are also subject to fringe benefit tax. What else? Interest on loan at less than market rate to the extent of difference between the market rate and actual rate granted. So, yun, di ba? Usually, ang market rate natin yan is 12% sa loans. So, usually, pag binibigay siya ng employer, less than the market rate, yung loans na yon, they are subject to fringe benefit tax. Yung number 4, nakaligtaan ko. Household personnel, such as maid, driver, and others. So, yung mga household expenses pala. Diba? Mga household expenses, like bonuses, and other kinds, are also subject to fringe benefit. Diba? Binibigyan sila ng mga employers nila ng mga household personnel, sa mga maid, drivers, and others. Next, membership fees, dues, and other expenses borne by the employer for the employee in social and athletic clubs or other similar organizations. So, yung ibang employer may pa sports fest, di ba? So, may mga pa sports clubs sa mga managers and supervisors nila. So, those are subject to fringe benefit tax. What else? Expense for foreign travels, holiday vacation expense, education assistance to the employee. Diba? Minsan may mga pa-education assistance sa mga employees or dependents, and life or health insurance and other than non-life insurance premiums or similar amounts in excess of what the law amounts. Okay? So, yan, yung mga premiums na yan are subject to free na binabayaran ng employer sa employee nila for the life insurance are subject to fringe benefit tax. Okay? So, ano naman yung mga fringe benefits na binibigay ng employer sa employee na not subject to fringe benefit tax? Number 1, fringe benefits which are authorized and exempted from income tax under the law or treaty. For example, the separation benefits, diba, given to employees who were involuntarily separated from work. Second, contributions of the employer to the benefit or for the benefit of the employee to retirement, insurance, and hospitalization benefits plan. And finally, benefits given to rank and file. So lahat mga fringe benefits given to rank and file, they are not subject to fringe benefit tax. But they may be subject to withholding tax on compensation if lumampas na sa 90,000 cap, okay, ng BAR. What else? Number 4, de minimis benefit. Ano naman yung de minimis benefits? De minimis tax exempted benefits. So they are ibig sabihin they're not subject to income tax and withholding tax on compensation. Okay? Of relatively small values provided by the employer to its employees. Usually mga maliliit lang naman na amount. Okay? Sa lahat ng employees, managers, supervisors, rank and files on top of basic salary. Intended of course for the general welfare of the employees. Such as yung mga monetized unused VLs, mga vacation leaves sa private employees not exceeding 10 days during the year. So they are considered as de minimis benefits and should not be subject to fringe benefit tax or any kinds of tax. Second, monetized value of PL and SL, mga vacation and sick leaves, paid to government officials and employees. Medical cash allowance to dependents of employees not exceeding 1,500 per employee per semester of 250 pesos per month. Number 4 is rice subsidy, ng mga pa-rice ng mga employers of 2,000 pesos or 1 sack of 50 kilogram rice per month amounting to not more than 2,000. They are not subject to tax. Uniform and clothing allowance. May mga pa-uniform not exceeding 6,000 per year or per annum. What else? Actual medical assistance not exceeding 10,000 per annum. Laundry assistance or laundry allowance not exceeding 300 per month. Employees achievement awards which must be in the form of tangible personal property other than cash or gift certificates with an annual monetary value not exceeding 10,000 pesos received by the employee under an established written plan which does not discriminate in favor of highly paid employees. Number 9, gifts received or given during Christmas and major anniversary celebrations not exceeding 5,000 pesos per employee per annum. Number 10, daily meal allowance for overtime work and night graveyard shift not exceeding 25% of the basic minimum wage. And number 11, benefits received by an employee by virtue of a collective bargaining agreement and productivity incentive schemes, provided the total annual monetary value received from both CBA and productivity incentive schemes combined do not exceed 10,000 pesos per employee per taxable year. Okay, so yun is benefits. So all other benefits not included in this enumeration shall not be considered as de minimis benefits and shall be subject to income tax and withholding tax on compensation income. So kapag wala dun sa listahan, hindi sila considered as de minimis benefits. Thus, they are to be taxed whether by compensation income or withholding tax on compensation. Okay? If employer provides more than the limitation, sumobra naman, the amount in excess of the limit is taxable, subject to withholding tax on compensation for rank and file or fringe benefit tax of 30 to 35% for supervisory or managerial employee, except when the benefits and 13th month pay does not exceed the 99,000 pesos cap or limitation. Okay? Number 5, on the fringe benefits not subject to fringe benefit tax are the benefits granted to employee as required by the nature of or necessary to trade, business or profession of the employer. And number 6 are the business benefits granted for the convenience of the employer. So ano-ano yung mga yon? Pinagsama na natin yung number 5 and 6. Diba? Pwede siyang housing privilege of military officials of AFP or Armed Forces of the Philippines located inside or near the military camps. Right? So they are not subject to fringe benefit tax. Also, housing units situation inside or at most 50 meters from the perimeter of the business premises. Also have temporary housing for an employee for 3 months or less. Okay? So So, ibig sabihin nun, yung first three things na binanggit natin, 'di ba, number one, list dun sa list natin ng mga fringe benefits subject to fringe benefit tax is housing privileges. Now, these are the exceptions. So, kapag binigay mo siya, pag grinant mo siya sa mga military officials ng Armed Forces of the Philippines, or kapag yung housing unit na binigay mo is inside or at most 50 meters from the perimeter of your business premises, they are not subject to fringe benefit tax. And also, if that is only a temporary housing for employee for 3 months or less. So they should not be subject to fringe benefit tax. Then fourth are the expenses of the employee reimbursed by the employer supported by receipts in the name of the employer. Why? Bakit? Kasi um, as long as it is yung mga expenses na yon are used and necessary for the trade or business ng employer. We also have motor vehicles used for sales, delivery service, and non-personal use. So basta non-personal use and para sa employer, they are not subject to fringe benefit tax. Meron pa, use of aircrafts, mga helicopters owned and maintained by the employer. And final, and business expenses paid by the employer for foreign travel of his employees in connection with business meetings or convention. So, yun um, yung mga items na hindi dapat subject sa fringe benefit tax. Because, anong rason? Because that benefit is required by the nature or necessary sa trade, business, or profession ng employer, or the business was granted for the convenience of the employer. Why? Because, 'di ba, if pati rin mo yung manager supervisory mo diyan sa within 50 millimeters, halos sigurong araw-araw sa trabaho 'yan, 'di ba? So, in that case, that should not be subject to fringe benefit tax. So, what else? Ano pa ba yung mga fringe benefits not taxable? Fringe benefits which are authorized and exempted from tax under the special laws. We also have contributions of the employer for the benefit of the employee to retirement, insurance, and hospitalization benefits plan. Also have benefits given to the rank and file employees whether granted under a collective bargaining agreement or not. And of course, the Minimus Benefits as defined in the rules and regulations to be promulgated by the Secretary of Finance upon recommendation of the Commissioner of Internal Revenue. So, tandaan nyo, okay? So, let's have a case discussion. So, PRT Corporation purchased a residential house and lot with a swimming pool in an upscale subdivision and required by the company president to stay there without paying rent. Okay? So, it reasoned out the company that the company president must maintain a certain image and be able to entertain guests at the house to promote the company's business. The company president declared that because they are childless, he and his wife could very well live in a smaller house. So, yung bang binigay or yung residential house with house and lot with swimming pool na binigay ng company na ni-require ng company para mag-stay yung president without paying the rent is a taxable fringe benefit. Letter A, there was no taxable fringe benefit since it was for the convenience of the employer and was necessary for its business. Letter B, there was a taxable fringe benefit because since the stay at the house was for free. Letter C, there was a taxable fringe benefit because the house was very luxurious. Letter D, there was no taxable fringe benefit because the company president was only required to stay there and did not demand free housing. So, type in your answers, please, so I could see. Okay? So, the correct answer is, what do you think? Letter A. There was no taxable fringe benefit since It was for the convenience of the employer and was necessary for its business. So tatandaan nyo, kapag itong benefit, fringe benefit na ibinigay sa isang manager or supervisor is for the convenience ng employer and necessary sa business niya. Tulad ng sa problema natin dito, then that is not subject to fringe benefit tax. Okay? So, kunwari, kapag binigyan ka ng housing, okay, ng motor vehicle ng company, tingnan nyo muna, necessary ba to or for convenience ng employer? Kasi pag yes, then that should not be subject to fringe benefit tax. Okay? Another exercise. A fringe benefit is defined as being any good, service, or other benefit furnished in cash or in kind by an employer to an individual employee. So would it be the employer or the employee who is legally required to pay an income tax on it? So sino dapat ba magbayad? Si employer or si employee? Can you type in your answer and explain? Okay, it is the employer who is legally required to pay an income tax on the fringe benefit. The fringe benefit tax is imposed as a final withholding tax, placing the legal obligation to remit the tax on the employer, such that if the tax is not paid, the legal recourse of the BAR is to go after the employer. So siya ang hahabulin sa employer, not the employee. Any amount or value received by the employee as a fringe benefit is considered tax paid, hence not the net of the income tax due thereon. The person who is legally required to pay, same as statutory incidents as distinguished from economic incidents, is that person who in case of non-payment can be legally demanded to pay the tax. Okay? So another problem. X was hired by Y to watch over Y's fish funds with a salary of 10,000 pesos. To enable him to perform his duties well, he was also provided a small hut which he could use uh, as his residence in the middle of the fish ponds. The question is the fair market value of the use of the small hut by X a fringe benefit that is subject to the 32%, now 35% tax imposed by the National Internal Revenue Code? Yes or no? Subject ba siya sa fringe benefit tax? What do you think? Type in your answer. So the correct answer is no. X is neither a managerial nor a supervisory employee. So titingnan nyo muna, ano bang kind ng employee siya. So only those managerial or supervisory employees are entitled to a fringe benefit subject to the fringe benefit tax. So even assuming that he is a managerial or supervisory employees, the small hut is provided for the convenience of the employer. Hence, does not constitute a taxable fringe benefit. So yun yung sinabi ko kanina, di ba? Tingnan nyo, ano bang position yan? Rank and file, supervisory or manager? Kapag rank and file, hindi X kagad sa fringe benefit yan. Tapos tingnan nyo, for the convenience ba yan ng employer? Necessary ba yan sa business niya? Pag oo, X agad yan for fringe benefit tax. Okay? Another problem. Nutrition Chippy Corporation gives all its employees, rank and file, supervisors, and managers one sack of rice every month valued at 800 pesos per sack. During an audit investigation made by the BIR assessed the company for failure to withhold the corresponding withholding tax on the amount equivalent to the one sack of rice received by all the employees, contending that, sabi ng BIR, the sack of rice is considered as additional compensation for the rank and file employees and additional fringe benefits for the supervisors and managers. So therefore, the value of one sack of rice every month should be considered as part of the compensation of the rank and file subject to tax. So for supervisors and managers naman, the employer should be the one to assess pursuant to Section 33 ng NRC sa Fringe Benefit Tax. So meron daw bang legal basis for the assessment made by the BIR? What do you think? So there is no legal basis for the assessment. Why? The one sanga price given to the supervisors and managers are considered de minimis benefits or de minimis fringe benefits, considering that the value per sa does not exceed 1,000 pesos, hence exempted from the fringe benefit tax. Okay? So the one sacrifice given naman to rank and file is likewise not subject to tax as part of compensation income. This is a benefit of relatively small value intended to promote the health, goodwill, contentment, and efficiency of the employee, which will not constitute taxable income of the recipient. So both are de minimis benefit. Okay? So thus they are not subject to income tax. Now let's proceed. Let's move on from the fringe benefit tax. Let's proceed to the corporate income. So we have domestic and foreign corporation, di ba? We have discussed. So for domestic corporation, taxable on the net income received from sources within and without. Net taxable income is the amount equal to gross income less allowable deduction. And the sources from within and without, di ba? The sale of goods, the sale of services. So deductions from income for corporate income see almost same as individual taxpayer except the premium payments on health and or hospitalization insurance. So, withholding of tax at source, ito yung mga final withholding tax, di ba? Katulad ng sa fringe benefit. But the withholding tax is a mechanism designed to facilitate the collection of tax from taxpayers. So, this involves yung administrative feasibility ng sound tax system. The withholding tax may be creditable or final. If creditable, ibig sabihin pwede siya makredit sa tax due payable nung or sa tax due ng isang individual taxpayer. If creditable, the amount of tax withheld is allowed to be credited against taxpayer's final tax liability, yung tax due, and adjusted accordingly. Diba? Thus, it will result to tax payable. If final naman, hindi na siya kailangan or hindi na siya pwedeng mag-tax credit and adjustments are to be made by the taxpayers.
So, income subject to final tax, no? Anong ibig sabihin naman nun? So, income subject to final tax refers to an income wherein the tax due is fully collected through the withholding tax system. Yung inaral natin sa previous slide. Now, under this procedure, the payer or the taxpayer withholds the tax and remits it to the government as a final settlement of the income tax due on said income. So the recipient is no longer required to include the item of income subject to that final tax as part of his gross income in his income tax return. So paano yun, sir? For example, no, yung best example dyan ng mga income subject to final tax, yung mga dividend income, interest from the bank deposits, royalties. So for example, as I mentioned, no, in my previous lecture, na yung sa bank deposit mo, as you save money to your bank, then it will generate interest every month, no? And yung bank has the obligation to withhold that a portion of that dividend from your bank deposits and pay it directly to the BIR. So the taxpayer, yung bank depositor na naka-receive ng dividends or ng interest on the bank on his bank deposit no longer needs to include that interest sa kanyang income tax return. Why? Because yung binayad or yung withhold ng bangko ng payer ng income, it is considered as the final settlement of that income tax due. Okay? Hindi no longer necessary na i-declare mo pa siya sa income tax return mo. Okay? Now, let's move forward to the date, and what are the things that you need or the documents that you need to file and pay withholding tax. So marami yan actually. Sa slide na to makikita natin, no, so ano-ano yung mga forms na kailangan natin, mga BIR forms sa left portion ng table na kakailanganin natin, and then yung description sa middle and yung due date, di ba? So, well, hindi ko naman siya isasama sa exam, no, but for your reference, for example, yung monthly remittance return ng VAT and other percentage tax, binabayaran siya every 10th day after end of each month. Whereas monthly remittance form for final income tax withheld, dapat binabayaran siya or pina-file and pay siya every 10th day din after end of each month. Whereas yung quarterly remittance return of final income tax and the quarterly remittance return of final income tax withheld on interest paid on deposits and quarterly remittance return of final income tax withheld on fringe benefit paid to employees other than rank and file, fina-file and pay siya on the month after the end of quarter. Or sorry, last day of the month after the end of quarter. So, for example, no, so January, February, March is the first quarter. So yung last day of the month after the end of quarter, so April, dapat binabayaran na siya. Okay? Pina-file nyo na rin yung forms. Okay? And finally, yung annual information return of income tax withhold on compensation and final withholding tax. And due siya every January 31 after end of the year. So itong table na to, class, nagre-refer lang to sa mga final withholding tax as discussed earlier. Ano? Now, income payments to individuals that are subject to final withholding tax, please refer to page 12 of your module, yung unang finost ko. Okay? Income payments to corporation that are subject to final withholding tax, andun sa page 13, yung table. Income payments on interest paid to bank deposits, amount withdrawn on dissidents deposit account, it's on page 14. And income payments from government that are subject to withholding of 5% to 12% VAT and 3% percentage tax is also in page 14. And for the creditable withholding tax rates on certain payments. So kanina, mga final withholding tax, no? Now, sa mga creditable withholding tax, ito yung mga tax rate niya on certain payments. So at the middle portion ng table, yan yung mga previous rate niya, CWT rate. Now, with the implementation ng train law, ito na yung mga susundin natin. So for professional fees, talents, and commissions, professional fees paid to medical practitioners and veterinarians, income payments to certain brokers and agents, and commissions of independents and or exclusive sales representatives and marketing agents of companies. So these are the rates dun sa right side ng table. Okay? And for income distributions to beneficiaries of estates and trusts, 15% na ang kanyang creditable withholding tax rate. And for income payments to partners of general professional partnership, the new rate is 10% if the AGI, annual gross income, does not exceed 720,000. And if it exceeds 720,000 pesos, 15% na ang kanyang i-withhold sa payment na yon. Okay? So that is the end of our chapter 2 on the concepts of income. Okay? So this will be the coverage from the start up to this, yung coverage of your preliminary examinations.